Kia ora, good evening. Welcome to the Guerin Report after a wonderful weekend of racing out of Ellis. We're getting really close to Champions Day, just around the corner. My very special guest tonight is a man who could fill two shows, David Ellis, the boss of Te Akau, recently inducted into the New Zealand Hall of Fame, with that ceremony still to come. And of course, the king of Karaka, both the sales ring and the Karaka Millions. Mate, it's been a remarkable decade for Te Akau. It's been an incredible summer, winning both the Karaka Millions again. Welcome to the show. How are you feeling?
Very proud and exceptionally thrilled for all my team at the farm, at Riccarton, Melbourne and at Matamata, who all work so hard to help Karen and I put the show on. And that's what gives us the big thrill, and to see the excitement that the owners get out of winning these big races, it really keeps me feeling young and wants to keep going.
Well, it's a good way to be. Let's talk about, you mentioned Cranbourne, Matamata, Riccarton. This has become a huge machine. 5 years ago you told me you might start buying less yearlings. You clearly have not done that. What's it like now you're expanding at this rate? Is it more invigorating? Is breaking into Australia more invigorating and adding more energy to the business? Because a lot of people who have achieved your success would probably think, oh, I've earned the right to slow down here.
Well, I just enjoy it so much. I enjoy the thrill that the owners get, and it's great to see young people like Reece Trumper and Hunter Durant and Sam Burgesson coming through, and that's what keeps Karen and I and Mark Walker going. It's exciting, and then we've got a lot of other really good people in the stable, like Nicole Shaler. So many people at the farm that's run by guy Luke Copeland, who came to me the day he left school, and he's been with me for 25 years. So there's a lot of people like that through our business, and it's just so rewarding to see the excitement they get out of winning these races. And a couple of years ago, I decided that after talking with Mark and Karen, that I wanted to take the business to the next level. So I went around Australia and looked at all the tracks from Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria, and easily the best training centre that I've seen in my life was at Cranbourne. So we decided to start up there, and it's been, you know, a really exciting time.
I know the idea is to get to 70 or 70 horse barn or barns at Cranbourne. Surely filling a 70 horse barn along with the massive operations in New Zealand is a huge undertaking. What made you want to do that?
Well, I think that Mark and I want to make a success of whatever we do, and having 20 or 30 horses isn't enough, and we decided to approach the Australian breeders, and we've had terrific support from the studs and from major breeders throughout Australia, and it's just a big help getting it going.
Obviously, Australia is a magnificent place for us to be living next to, if you like, racing horses. What are the challenges of, for example, for Ben Gleeson and now for Mark, in training in Australia, which you don't have in New Zealand? Because we have a really high standard of horse people, David, but it looks a little bit harder to win on those big days in Australia.
Oh, it probably is, and that's why last season, when Mark got the Strike Rate of the Year award for Victoria, it was just so exciting. And we've got the best team of young people working for us in Melbourne you'd ever see. And interestingly enough, they emailed me and said, we want to come and be involved in the team with Te Akau now that you're setting up in Cranbourne. And yeah, we've had a lot of fun and success there for sure.
Mark now has a house in both countries, so he was at Matamata 9 days ago when you had all that success with the Slipper and the Breeders' Stakes and the Kaimai Stakes. How do you see it going forward? Is it a case that Mark will be a dual country trainer? Do you see Sam and Hunter and Nicole stepping into some of that breach? How do you see the next 5 years of Te Akau with all this change going on and all this development?
I think that Mark will be 95% of the time in Melbourne, and Sam's doing such a great job. He's going to be the next Mark Walker going forward, next Jamie Richards for certain. He's just doing an amazing job, got a great work ethic, and really good with the owners. And he's supported with the owners with Reece Trumper, who's been as good a racing manager as you'd get in the world, I'd imagine. And he's going to get more and more involved in the business. And we've got another guy that's Michael Gray, who's a really interesting guy. He's just been working in the handicapping department at New Zealand Thoroughbred Racing, and he's been working for us now for a couple of months, and you'll see him go right through to the top too, and it's an exciting time.
It's a lot to take on board for people. David, just to give us an idea of the scale, between the three operations, and you may not even know the answer to this, how many people would be employed or full-time employee numbers? Some people might have a half job on different times of the week. And how many horses would be totally on Te Akau's books?
So we employ about 105 people full-time in Australia, in Matamata, at Riccarton, at Matamata and at the farm. And that includes my team in the office, which is headed by Jenny Jackson at Te Akau and Lena Jones at Matamata. And it's a big organisation. We've got about 45 in work at Cranbourne rather, and quite a few, and about 30 spelling. So the numbers are improving, and we think that by the end of this year we'll have 70 in full-time work there.
What about in New Zealand? How many horses will be on the books in work or coming back into work at some stage?
So we've got 110 in work in Matamata and 25 at Riccarton, between 20 and 25 at Riccarton, and the rest are spelling at Te Akau stud or on the owners' farms, like people like Brendan and Joe Lindsay. All the studs, most of them take their horses home to spell, but all the rest are spelled at Te Akau stud.
So rough numbers, there's about 220 horses there in work or going back into work. And of course, you and Karen breed horses on the farm. How is that all kept track of? Because that sounds incredibly daunting to me to work out where they all are, paying all the bills on them, who owns them, and communicating to all the people involved in that. So that must be a system, I presume, that is growing as the numbers grow.
Yeah, well, I'm really lucky that my wife Karen is just quite incredible at what she does. She does the marketing and a lot of the organisation, helps me sell a lot of yearlings, and it's quite incredible the way she does it. And I've got my youngest daughter, Julia Rose. She handles the website and all the social media, which today is a big part of running a stable.
Well, when you started, it didn't exist. So is it good to have younger eyes to control that sort of stuff? I think people love getting a video of their horse for Monday morning trot-up sent to their phone. But when you've got 200 and something horses floating around, that's a lot of trot-ups. So is that crucial, that ability to communicate that to people if you're asking them to pay for their bills?
Your Mark does a video and trots up with the vet every horse in New Zealand, and when he's in Australia, Sam does it. So every owner gets a video of their horse every Monday, and then straight after the race, they get another video and an update of how the horse went. And in a lot of the cases today, Reece Trumper interviews the jockey and sends that, what the jockey's got to say, straight to the owners. because my attitude is, when I was racing horses on my own, I wanted to know the good news and the bad news as it happened. So if that's what I want, it's fair to assume that everybody else wants that, and that's what we try and do, give the best communications that you can.
105 staff and 200 plus something horses. How many syndicate members do you have? I'm not talking the Brendan and Joe Lindsays who have horse in the stable, but I'm talking on the Te Akau mailing list syndicate members. I presume that's an awfully big number.
Well, I'm not sure, but what we do is every November we send a present of the New Zealand Racing Annual that Aidan Rodley does so well to every owner. And I think this year we needed 1,400 books. So we've got around that number of owners, whether they're syndicate members or own them outright. That's how many books we ordered.
How does that work? Because not all owners understand horse racing the same. Some people don't like losing. When you have 1,400 people on the books, surely you get the occasional grumpy one. Do they deal with you or do they deal with Guerin?
They very quickly send them my way. But unbelievably, we get very few. And I'm really lucky that Julia Rose, my youngest daughter, is incredible at how she promotes the business, and she runs it, social media, and people just feel so involved and they enjoy it, and it just works really well. Yep, sure, we get the occasional person that thinks they could train better than Mark Walker, but not very many. We're very fortunate.
You mentioned training. You obviously have a very good eye for a horse. We'll get back to buying horses a little bit later on, but do you have any input to the training? Because you've seen a lot of things happen in training. Do you ever say to Mark, should we do this, or I would like you to do this? Or is it like me employing a plumber? They come to your house, they do a job, and you leave them alone.
Well, we have a really good team talk on a regular basis, but whether a horse gallops over 600 or 800 metres, I have no involvement in, but I do have some say on where a horse races next. It's a team talk with Mark, Sam, Ben and myself, and we talk about it, but mainly I leave the training to them because they do such a good job.
Let's talk about sales. It's very hard to talk about Te Akau and yourself without thinking of sales, and most particularly Karaka. You're now buying a lot in Australia and a lot at Karaka. When you go to those different sales, do you look for different types of horses?
I look for horses that I think can win Group 1 races, and unfortunately I find it very difficult to go to a sale and not buy a horse that I really like. And it's something I enjoy doing. I remember going to the Trentham yearling sales in the 1970s, 1980s, and I was just obsessed with Peter Kelly and Joe Walls, and I used to look at them as just legends, and used to think, gee, if I ever could meet them myself, wouldn't that be a thrill? And I finished up best mates with Joe, and he's been a very important part of the Te Akau success, and he's the best judge of a yearling I've ever met, and we do a lot together.
Well, I think it'd be very easy for people to think that you're the money man behind this and you and Karen get all the owners in, but obviously you're a horse person, but you didn't start out as a horse person. And you've got a very good eye for a yearling. How has that developed? And now it has developed. What do you look for most when you are looking for yearlings?
I look for an athlete that can win a Group 1 race, and they come in all shapes and sizes. But there's, you know, I like horses with a nice deep shoulder and a good girth, and I love a horse with a nice, plenty of strength down through the gaskin, a horse that moves well, There's a lot of things, but they've just got to look athletic to me, and I'm fortunate that I seem to be able to pick them out.
Have you got better at it with time because you've looked at tens of thousands of yearlings? Or do you now, surrounding yourselves with Mark Walker and Marcus Corbin and Joe Walls and all these people, do you get better by the people around you?
I've definitely got better. There's no doubt about that. And I think the more horses you look at, the better understanding of what you look at. And you start looking at yearlings in November, and it takes a few days to get your eye on, but by the start of Magic Millions and Karaka, you've really seen thousands of horses, and you've got a good eye for what you're looking for. And yes, I've got a really good team around me, and we discuss these sort of things, and we've all got our good points. Marcus is very good at spotting faults in a horse. I look for the good points, and Mark Walker is a big help too. But also, a guy that I'm predicting will be a great judge of a yearling going forward is Reece Trumper. For a guy that's 24 years of age, I've never seen somebody that can understand and appreciate what we're trying to do, and he's got a great eye for an athlete.
We've all seen you bidding on horses at Karaka. We've seen you at other sales too, but that's the place you see most at home. Who makes the final decision? Because I've seen the team talk in the VIP room on the morning. Who makes the final decision on price and what you'll go to? And how often do you go over that, maybe more than Karen or the team would like?
Well, it's a team effort. We put a price on each horse, but on the ones I really, really like, I don't show a lot of discipline, I'm afraid. And for example, with Probabile, we had $280,000, and the boys said to me, "That's enough, boss, no more for that." And I said, "Look, guys, I'm just going to buy this filly." And we were lucky. We paid $360,000 for her, and we were really lucky. 3 or 4 days later, we sold it to Brendan and Joe Lindsay, who have been great supporters of the stable.
What's the best horse you've ever bought? Not your favourite, because we all fall in love with them for different reasons. What's the best horse you've bought?
I'd say it would be Imperatrice. She was judged the fastest sprinter in the world last season, and I don't think New Zealand's ever trained a horse that's been rated the best in the world. But she won 10 Group 1s. She had her first start in October as a 2-year-old and went her best races as a late 5-year-old.
You have had enormous success over a very long period of time. So when you have a Karaka Million, like you had just a month ago, where you win the 2- and 3-year-old, or even closer to home, at Matamata you win the Slipper and the Breeders' Stakes in the same day, does it still mean as much after you've been through that Imperatrice cycle, where you've won those massive races in Australia? Does what happened on those Saturdays still get you as excited?
Oh, it definitely does. You've got no idea.
So why?
It's just the thrill of seeing the look of, say, Sam Burgessen's face, how proud he is. Then you go down the alleyway and see his mother, how proud she is, and then you see his father, and then you see all the owners, and a horse like Return to Conquer. He's strapped by a young guy who's worked for me for 3 years now. He's only 17, but an absolute champion, and you see the almost tears rolling down their face with pride. And people tend to forget that these young people start at 3:30 every morning. They're the hardest working people that you could ever imagine. And it's just such a great thrill for me to see this, the excitement that they get and the excitement that the owners get. People come to me literally daily and say, "Gee, that horse that won, that was a life-changing moment for me."
It must be hard though to keep growing, because I know you spend this many million on the Gold Coast, more millions at Karaka, and it must be very stressful to leave the sales knowing that in a month you're going to have to give NZB $6 or $7 or $8 or $9 million. Why would you do that to yourself?
Because I've worked out that if you want to train the best horses, you've got to go to the place where they originate. Now, 99% of the best breeders in the world have to sell their best horses to pay the service fees, to pay the adjustment bills, to pay the staff. So if we want to train the best horses, we've got to go to the sale and buy them. And we buy 95% of our horses without owners. And yes, it is stressful, because I'm one of these guys that doesn't sleep very well if I owe people money. So I always pay New Zealand Bloodstock in full, for example, before they pay the breeders.
I take it you have some sort of business loan facility. I'm picking you don't have 15 million lying around the house.
No, I've got a very good bank. I bank with ASB in Auckland, and we've had a great association for a long, long time, and I'm lucky that I've got their support too.
You've already purchased 50 yearlings in 2025. How many of those are sold? How do people get involved in it? Is it all website driven these days?
A lot of it is, but we've been advertising in the New Zealand Herald, and we've had this morning, for example, I had 3 people that rang me and said, we saw your ad yesterday in the Herald, and they bought shares. They've actually been selling quicker this year than I think they ever have, but the fact that we bought 53 yearlings so far means there's a huge amount still to do, but it's going better than we could have dreamt.
It's a time of enormous change for everybody, particularly New Zealand thoroughbred racing, but all aspects of the industry. Has the Entain-driven developments of these carnivals and support and stake money, and things like ATR and Waikato Thoroughbred Racing's development potential there, is that something which has invigorated the business, as you mentioned, to selling some horses? And have you been happy, or how would you term how you've been, about the last 2 years of New Zealand racing?
Oh, it's certainly really exciting. I think we've got to be very careful going forward that we've probably got enough money that's gone into stakes. We now have to concentrate on infrastructure. For example, the last 2 or 3 weeks, there's been a couple of trial meetings that have been cancelled. We need facilities that we can train horses on. We need good trial tracks. We need good tracks that we can race on. And it's interesting, a lot of discussions going on about where Group 1 races should be. But we live in a country where we get, most parts of the country get 50 mils of rain a year. That means we have soft tracks for 8 months a year. We don't normally get good tracks up here in the north till early November. So we need Hawke's Bay and we need Riccarton, because down at Riccarton they get good tracks normally in September, which means you can train them through to a race like the 1,000 and 2,000 guineas. And I think it's really important that administrators take that into account when they do the programming.
Are you a fan of the Greenfields concept being spoken about on the Waikato? I know your horses are trained at mata, so it wouldn't affect your training so much, but is this something you like the sound of?
Yes, I think that Waikato Thoroughbred Racing has now been managed by very, very good administrators. I think Butch Castle is one of the best in New Zealand, and I think that the board they've got there running it is world class. They've got some really good people on the board. I think that it's essential for New Zealand racing going forward that Cambridge has top facilities.
Okay.
And I think that it's good that they're amalgamating with Waipa, but I'm not in favour of selling Te Rapa. I think that history will show you around the world, if you sell a race course in town and go out, it's not successful. So 80% of what they're doing I completely agree with and support, but I'm not in favour of selling Te Rapa.
You and one of your favourite equine girlfriends, Imperatrice, are going into the Hall of Fame. You're going to be alongside some of the lates and greats like your late mate Colin Gillings in the Hall of Fame. That must be very special for a syndicator, even as big as you, to be going there.
Yes, it was the biggest thrill that you could ever have in a lifetime. It was great because our business, since I married Karen 20 years ago, has gone to another level, and she's been such a massive help to me, and I've was just so proud for my family, but also for all the staff that work for Te Akau Racing. I couldn't do it without them, and I've got some absolute champions that have been with me for a very, very long time, and I regard them as part of the family, and they'll all be coming to celebrate on May the 11th for sure.
You buy so many horses, there is this underlying, almost whispered fear that what happens when Te Akau stops buying horses at the sales? How do you see the future of Te Akau for 5 or 10 or even more years? Because surely you can't keep this level of energy up, David, even you. How do you see this looking in 10 years? Is Te Akau a sustainable force?
Yes, I think it is. We've deliberately tried to get young people around that'll be running Te Akau for the next 10, 20 years. And you know, I probably won't be, but I've got the best team around us that Karen and I have spent a lot of time identifying and choosing. And yeah, I think Mark will be still around in 20 years. He's got no plans to slow down. He's still working 7 days a week, literally 360 days a year. And we're going to take it to the next level. That's our goal.
Well, it's as improbable as it sounds to make this even next level. I don't doubt you, because you've already started that process through Australia. David, to you, to Karen, to everybody at Te Akau, to everybody who's backed a Tangerine winner on a Saturday or a Wednesday, thank you for everything you do, from all the breeders who sold you horses. But a heartfelt congratulations on being part of the Hall of Fame. It is no small deal. Thank you for sharing us some of your philosophies here on the Guerin Report tonight.
Thank you very much, Michael.
David Ellis, one of the greats of New Zealand racing, and it's great to get that mindset. Some of those figures, you might need to rewind that and go back through it, because they are so huge. Of course, they will be a huge force also at Champions Day now, getting ever so closer at Ellerslie on March the 8th. That's the Guerin Report again for a Monday night. Thanks for taking time out of your night to join us. We'll be back next Monday on Trackside at 8 p.m.